Hi friends, and thank you for joining me today here at Watercolors with Jaylene. So for today's little project, what I thought I would do is share with you how I go about making a set of 3 gift cards, and they're just a generic little gift card. And I always do these about this time of year because I do like to have a few different stacks of them to give out as last minute gift. And so for today's project, we're going to be doing, it's just a basic little daisy with a bee. And I like to do 3 different colors. And typically that's what my sets are made of, is 3 cards. I always like to do odd numbers for whatever reason. That's just my own preference. If you want to do 4 or 5 or however many, you know, that's your choice. And so before we get started today, I would like to ask you to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And be sure to hit the like button if you enjoy this video. Please leave comments and questions down below. That really, I really enjoy reading them. So to get started, let's go over the supply list real quick. First of all, I do have my basic cards, the card stock, and they measure 5.5 by 4 inches. They do come with matching envelopes. I get them at the local craft store, and you can probably get them online. I believe I also have a link to them on Facebook in my description below, so you can check that out. And then the solid color background paper, those measure 4.5 by 3.5 inches, and I just cut those down from a regular size 8.5 by 11 sheet of colored paper. And then the watercolor paper that I paint on is 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. And for those, I do take a large sheet of paper, the Arches 140-pound cold press. It's kind of a poster size board, and I fold it in half and rip it, and then fold that in half and rip it, and I keep folding in half and ripping until I get down to these small sizes. And the reason that I do that is because I do like the ripped edge look, not a straight cut. So if you have another type of paper that you would want to use and cut it, or you know, that's your preference also. That's just what I like to do. So with that being said, I do also have a number 8, and this is a Princeton brush, and it has a fine point on it. If you have a number 6 or you know something, whatever you're comfortable with, because it's really some very basic painting. And then I also have a nice slew of markers here. So I have a fine point Sharpie. I have another Sharpie that's a little bit thicker. I have my mechanical pencil. And then this is an 05 nib micron, and this is a finer point that I'll be doing just a few of the little details with. And then I do have some brush markers, and I'll be using the yellow and the orange and the gray for the little bumblebee. Now, if you don't have the brush markers and you wanted to just use paints, that's fine too. It's a very simple little bee to make, or you know, to paint. And so I'll talk you through that as when we get to that point. And then I do also have my glitter glue. I don't know if you can see it in the video. However, I do have along the edges and then just on the middle part of the flower, a little bit of the glitter to, you know, kind of do a little bit of a highlight. And then of course my double-sided tape for putting everything together. And then my Kuretake paints and a little mixing tray, some clean water, and a piece of paper towel for blotting my brush. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside, and we'll start, of course, with the little piece of watercolor paper. And so I take my mechanical pencil, and I just kind of draw. This is going to be for the little black and white checkered frame around the outside of this. And I don't know why I choose to just do this real quick in pencil, but I do. If you feel comfortable enough just to use the marker, then go for it. So I just kind of pencil that in, and then with my Sharpie, this is the ultra fine point. And I do like to use the Sharpie markers because they are waterproof. So when I, you know, put the watercolor paint on here, they don't start to blend and get all wonky on us. So then I just kind of go around and with my ultrafine point and draw this in. And you can see I'm not measuring anything. It's not a 100% perfect line, and that is fine. That works for me. So now I'm going to take my fine point Sharpie, which is a little bit thicker. And also with this, if you wanted to use just a black paint with maybe like a small flat brush, that would work. For whatever reason, I choose to use the marker. And so now I'm just going across. I'll tell you what I do want to do is kind of put this down just so I'm not getting the permanent marker on my my blotting thing here. And so for this, I don't measure it. Once again, I just kind of guesstimate and eyeball it and go through and put in the checkers. And I think, when they aren't like 100% perfect and straight, it does add a bit more character to the entire design. And I just like the look. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing this and you do want to measure it out, have at it. These are greeting cards, so I don't want to take a whole lot of time on, putting the card together, because I end up painting quite a few of these. And it's just kind of more fun to do it this way. You can see this is pretty quick, and I think that the checkered frame of it just adds an awful lot of character to the card and an awful lot of cuteness. And I have to say, people, because I give these out quite a few to family and friends, and every year they know that they're going to get a set of greeting cards from me, and they always look forward to what I come up with year after year, because I do make sure that they're quite a bit different. I have a couple people that like one specific design, and so I might make cards for them throughout the year, if they request or order them. But at Christmas time, I do like to come up with something different year after year. Okay, so there we have our frame. Now we're done with that. So I'm going to go back to the ultrafine Sharpie marker, and now we're going to pencil in the flower, the daisy. And with the daisy, I always make sure that there are, here, let's pull this over. I always make sure that there are 5 petals on the flower. So, and they could, whoops, and this isn't working super great. And they can be different sizes. I do like for them to be kind of plump petals. So there's 3, 4, and 5. And then I'll go through, and for the middle of the flower, we just kind of put a bunch of dots in there. And then for the bee, well, let's put the stem and then the leaves onto the flower. And it looks like I might be needing a new marker soon. Okay, so then for the bee, what I'm going to do is for the head and the beginning of the bee, just kind of do some scribble marks. And I start out kind of small, and then I want it to get a little longer. And then I'm just going to go like that for the little stinger that goes out. So there's the first portion of the bee, and then for the middle of the body, I'm going to do the same thing. And I make sure that it fans out a little bit, because we're trying to create a curve. Okay, so we go like that. We want our bee to look nice and fluffy. And then for the tail part of it, I start out kind of wide and just go narrow and just a little squiggle down. All right, so that's the first part of the bee. And then what I'm going to do is for the wings, I take my finer marker, and you don't really have to. I mean, if you want to use just one marker for both of them, that works just as well. I just kind of get a little, I don't know, a little OCD about it, I guess. And then I'm just kind of drawing in some, you know, 4 little legs and feet hanging there. So now, oh, and while I have this out, what I want to do is put in a little bit of detail on each of the petals. And that's why I like to use this one, because it is much finer. And so you can see how I'm just kind of going along the inside part of that and then doing a couple squiggles towards the middle. There, and that just gives it a little bit of character once again. So for the body of the bee, I am going to take my brush marker, and on these brush markers there's the very fine point and then the brush end. So I'm going to take the brush end of the yellow and just kind of color this in a little bit. And then with the orange, I'm going to use the thin point or the fine point, and just on the belly of the bee, kind of put a couple little lines. This gives it just a little bit of depth and character, I think, to the look of the bee. And then with my light gray brush marker, I'm going to just kind of do a couple little swoops inside the wings of the bee. Okay, and as I mentioned, if you don't have brush markers, just use some paint. That's fine. You can always use a very light gray paint, you know, and get that colored in. Okay, so now for painting the body of the flower, I think on this one we're going to start with the purple or the lavender. And I know my paints are a little bit out of the frame of the camera, so I do apologize for that. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing some of my cobalt violet and putting it onto my little mixing tray here, and I want very, very light amount of paint on there, but I want quite a bit of water. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of go along each one of the petals to the flower with very, very light color. And we do want quite a bit of water on there because we're going to be doing some blending in just a moment. All right, and it's the water that's going to make everything blend and look really nice. So even though this is very light, it's really plenty of color on there. So now I'm going to grab a little bit more of the same purple. This is cobalt violet, and I do have quite a bit of paint on my brush. And then I'm just going to go into the center portion of each of these petals and dab a little bit. Okay, so you can see how it's going to slowly, and I just washed my brush off and there's not a lot of water on there. And I just want to speed up the process a little bit. But, you know, as it dries, it's going to gradually blend out towards the end of the petals, and it looks very nice. And as we all know, with watercolors, they do have a tendency to get lighter as they dry. And so that will lighten up a little bit. So then I'm going to grab just one of my favorite greens, which is going to be my sap green. And once again, I do want quite a bit of water on my brush with a little bit of paint. And I'm just going to swoop down the stem of the flower, and then real quickly, you know, put a little bit of color into the leaves. And with these greeting cards, we don't really need for them to be heavy with color. In fact, the lighter the color, it makes them a little more delicate looking, I guess you could say. So you saw how quick and easy that was. So that was my purple flower. And then I'm going to, now for the next one, I did go ahead and did that outside frame, just so that I wasn't doing that time after time and you know, spending a lot of time on that in this video, because it is so basic and easy to do. But I did want to do one of the other, you know, another one of the flowers. So for the flower, once again, we want to do 5 large petals, and I do need a better Sharpie, I think. I like it to be a little bit thicker of a line than that. And you can see I do the 5 petals, yet I kind of keep this all straight so that it's a nice profile view of the flower itself. Oh, and we do have one more thing to do on that one, I forgot. Okay, so we have that all penciled or drawn in, and then we're going to do the stem, a nice big leaf here, a nice big leaf there. And then for the bee, once again, start a little bit away and just kind of do some squiggles to make them larger. And then we'll give it a little bit of a point, and then leave a little bit of space. And now we're doing the body of the bee. And you can see how we kind of turn it a little bit as we go. And then down for the final portion, and just a little squiggle. And then we'll pencil or draw in a couple of the wings. Okay, so then we'll grab our yellow for this and do, and you just need a hint of the color there. There's no real detail of that. You know, the whole bee kind of gets the fluffy look from the black lines. And then I'm going to take my little orange and just a couple little lines there to give it some depth and character. And then a couple quick lines with my gray. So now I want to go back to my micron, which is my very fine point, and add a little bit of detail. Now, if you don't have the fine point micron, you could always use the, you know, the ultra fine tip Sharpie and do this also. We just want a little bit of texture to the petals of this flower. Okay, so for this one, what I'm going to do is move on to my pinkish one. So for the pinks, I'm going to grab, the name of it is Rose Madder, M-A-D-D-E-R, and it's just a nice, just a nice light pink color. And so once again, I have a lot of water on my brush, and we're just doing a quick swoop into each one of the petals of the flower, giving a hint of color, not a whole lot. And we do want a lot of water so that when we do the center, it blends nicely. Okay, so now let me grab just a little bit more. Okay, so you can see how this is much darker. It's all I'm doing is putting more paint on the brush and dabbing it in there. And then, you know, we do want it to kind of, you know, just blend its way out. And so let me grab some more of my green. And the green that I'm using is just it's just a sap deep green. And so we go down the stem, put a little bit of color into the leaf. And then into that one, you can, let me put just a little more color. We'll just kind of dab it in there. And so I'm just kind of dabbing that, and I'm going to let that blend around also. And then what I forgot on my first one, which we'll go back and do now, I'm grabbing a little bit of yellow ochre. It's not a real bright yellow. And just kind of, and I don't want a whole lot on here. I just want to dab in a little bit of color. Okay, so let me bring this one back into play, and we're dabbing in just a little bit of the yellow to give it a hint of color in the center. All right, so we have those two. And then the third one that I like to do, and these are the three colors that my go-to colors, are the purple, pink, and then a blue. So with my Sharpie, I'll do this again, and once again, it's 5 petals. So we go 1, 2, 3. We'll do a smaller one, 4, and then a big one, 5. So you can see different size petals works just perfect. And then on this one, what I'll do is, here, let's do the inside. So if we do the inside, and it does look a little lighter because I'm not pressing down as hard, that's all. So as I mentioned, if you don't have, you know, the finer point micron, you can always use this Sharpie. and do the same thing there. We just want a little bit of texture in there is all that's the goal that we're going after. Okay, and then for our bee, we'll start here and do the head portion with a little bit of a stinger there. And then we'll skip a space. This bee I'm making much larger. There's the body portion, and then we skip a space and we come down to the end. And then for the wings, just a couple nice big wings. See how quick and easy this is? And after you do the first one, they definitely get faster and easier, and you can buzz right through these. Okay, so now I'm just putting in a little bit of the yellow and a hint of the orange. And then we can do the wings. All right, so now for the blue. Now when I'm doing the blue, in my Kiritaki paint set here, the blue that I'm using is called turquoise blue. So it's kind of a brighter blue. You know, it's not like the darker, no, I don't know, like an ultramarine. It's a little brighter than that. And so once again, I have a lot of water on my brush. And we're just going to do the same thing, go through. Put a little highlight of color into each one of the petals. Make sure there's a lot of water on there. Well, not too much, but you know, a good amount so that when you dab in the blue, it will blend nicely for you. All right, so see how quick and easy this is? And I'm telling you, when people get these cards, they absolutely love them. So if you have a few minutes, you want to create something different and unique to give out, this is going to be your go-to. All right, so I'm going to grab a little bit more of my green. All right, I just want to make sure I have enough water and enough color on my brush. So we're going to swoop down through. You can see this one has a little bit more. And then we'll come over here, do the same thing. And then let me grab a little bit of the yellow ochre. We'll dab in the, whoops, that's a little too much. I don't want too dark. You know, I just want a hint of color on this, the center. I want the little dots to appear, you know, to show through well. They add a lot of nice texture. Okay, so there's my third one. So with that being said, let me move this aside, and ever so quickly we will pull out, here are these three. Now this one is still just a little bit wet, so I want to be careful with that. And you do want to make sure that they dry pretty well before we start putting the cards together. But I have, here, let me set these aside. And I think I've shown this before in other videos, that I do cut all of my solid colored paper ahead of time, and I have it in here, you know, so I can just kind of grab some of these and go. And I think this is going to be a nice pink background for that one. And I have a couple different shades of purple, and I want to use that one. And then for my blue, I think that's just a little too pale. So let's see if I can't find something maybe a little bit darker. Huh. This one, I think that one will work nice. I do have this really dark one that I will use a lot of times, but for this particular set, I want to keep it with kind of pastel colors. So these are the three that I'm going to go with. And then what we'll do is grab the Micron. This is an 05. And I just want to put real quick a frame or a little border. And this is my go-to. I do kind of like a little star, and then 1, 2, and 3, kind of like little X's, and then an X in the corner. And then on the longer sides, I put 4 little X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the corner. And then 3 on this end. 1, 2, 3. And then 4 over here. And you can see I don't measure anything. I just kind of eyeball it. So obviously nothing is perfect on there. And once again, that's the look that we're going for, is a very hand created. Every piece is individual. No 2 pieces are the same. And that is another, another thing with all of my little cards. I don't have any of these printed. Every card that I make and sell and give away is definitely a one-of-a-kind individual. And that's why they're so cool. All right, so I did 3, and then the corner, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the edge. And then for my third one, I'll do 1, 2, 3, and you can see the spacing is not always perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I mean, you can sit and do a whole, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, a bunch of them in one day, in no time, in one morning, one evening, whenever you are working on your little projects. Okay, so we'll start with the blue one, and I just flipped this over. I put a couple pieces of double-sided tape. On some of my cards, I don't have any right now, but on some of my cards I use like a foamy double-sided, and then I just eyeball the center. And the foam gives it a little bit more of a depth, and it's a great look. I just currently don't have any, and I keep forgetting every time I go to the store to look for it. So this works just as well. All right, and I kind of eyeball that. No measuring, no anything. We just want to get these done and have them looking cute, right? So we'll put this on there. And then, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you could go ahead and do that now, I would really appreciate it. It helps my channel grow. And I love to read the comments below. So feel free to leave comments. Hit the like button, hit the little bell if you want to see future videos as I put them out. And you know the routine with all of this, right? Okay, so here is the pink one. This is the third and final in my little gift set. And you can see how quickly they go together, right? So now that we have them all together, the last and final step is to use the glitter glue. Now, if you don't care for glitter glue, then definitely omit it. It's your card, you do you. I do like to put a couple little dots in the center of the flower to give it a little bit of a sparkle. And then I just real quick go along this border that I put on here. Now, if you've never used this glitter glue, it does take, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 minutes for it to dry. So once you get this on here, there, and that's really all I do, just the center and then along the edges. So be sure to set it aside somewhere where you're not gonna, be touching it, or the cat's not gonna walk on it, or the dog isn't gonna lick it. We don't want anything happening to the animals. Okay, so then we go along the edge of this one. And I think it just adds a great little touch to it. And then, as I mentioned, each of these, these cards, when I buy them, they do have matching envelopes. And so, and then on the back of this, I do have a little stamp, inspired by life, created by hand, one of a kind, art created by, and then I fill my name in, Jaylene. And they truly are a one of a kind. So that's just a great little stamp that I've been using for many years. And I don't know, I found that at one of the craft stores also. They have a ton of them. Ton of options. I have other ones, but that's the one that I really like to use because they are one of a kind. All right, so this is it. There we go. That's the third one. Okay, so that is pretty much it. As I mentioned, these are a great little gift. You have plenty of time right now if you get started this weekend to get a few sets done. Everybody will love them and they'll want more. And hopefully I'm going to be able to get a couple more out to you before the holidays are here. Just some great little gift giving ideas. And until next time, ciao for now.